Hello, very good morning. So today we'll be understanding the complete theoretical along with scenario questions. Anyhow, you have seen the practical session. I don't want to repeat the same thing, but we'll be covering how exactly. So what are the prerequisites? So if you get a chance to attend any interview and how we are going to answer the questions with respect to file listener or with respect to deployments is something which we are going to see today. Okay. So let's consider they will be asked the question saying that I have a requirement where I have a CSV file where I need to process them and I need to create cases, right? So that is something which is the exact use case of the things which you have done in file listener, right? So now tell me, what are the rules? The first question they will ask you, what are the rules that you use? So first question says, let me, okay. So first question is very simple, where they'll ask you, I have a CSV file. That CSV file should be processed to create cases. And this CSV file is at particular location. Now tell me, what are the rules that are involved to process or to get this done? Tell me, I think you have already gone to the video recording. Tell me what are the rules that are there here.
We'll use file listener and we'll use parsec delimiter rule and service rule.
File listener, right? And
Yeah.
parse delimited rule,
Service rule.
service file. Apart from these three, do we have any other rule? There will be one more rule. Have we set up any service package in the file listener? When you create a file listener, you will be providing all these details. Along with that, will you be providing service package or not?
Yes.
Right? Service package. So this is the first question. They'll ask you, I have a requirement, and they will not directly ask you to explain the entire requirement, but tell me what are the rules that are involved while configuring this part. We'll say that yes, file listener is there, parse delimiter rule is there, service file is there, and service package is there. Right. But why only we are using four rules? Why these four rules? And there comes the picture where I need to explain them very clearly. The file listener. So it says that there is a CSV file which is placed at particular location. Okay. So there should be some rule which reads that location, right? See, in order to process the CSV file, first I need to read that location. So there comes a picture of file listener. File listener will read the file. You will be passing the file location. I'll be passing file location along with that starting name, file name, right? So file listener main job is to read that file. Whatever the location that you keep that file, my file listener will be going and reading that data. So first it will just read that file. Okay, now I have read that file. And if you see, I have given this data like this 00, then we have 101000. There comes, this is the header part and this is the values part, right? Let's consider this is the first name, this is the last name, this is the email, this is the phone. And first name I'm giving here Ram. Last name you can give A, I'm giving B, email ABC, PQR 12345 6. There is what are the file that I'm having it here? My file contains this information, right? Now I have read that particular location. So my file listener is able to track that location and yes, this is the file location I have given and this is the file name that starts with revive .csv, which means that revive star. If you give revive star, any file that starts with revive, any file name that starts with revive comes into picture. Clear? Any questions till this point? Why we need a file listener? Tell me, can someone explain me why we need a file listener rule here?
To
Be
read
vocal.
the file.
To read the file, right? And in the file listener rule, you are providing the file location and file name. This file listener job is done. Now what happens? I have read that file location, and in the file location, I am having this information. Now I need to pass it, right? So first name, last name, email, phone number. This should create one case called C101. This should create a case called C102. This case should be created as 103. I'm giving an example here. Now I need to process this information. So this first one is the header part. This is not there. Yeah, this is C102, C103 should be read. This is the file I am placing. Now there comes a picture. In the file listener, if you see, you're passing service package. Why we need a service package? Before we jump into pass delimited and service file, why we need a service package? And whatever the interaction that is happening in the backend, someone is processing it, right? So there will be one requester. Am I right? Service package. Why we need a service package? We need service package. I'll tell you. I'm a user. I've logged into the application. I'm a requester and I'm a browser requester, right? We have queue processor standard agents which will work on the background, and that is a batch requester. The file listener, email listener, and integrations work on requester called app requester, right? So this app requester is a type of requester in Pega which will carry out the functionality of file listener or email listener. Now, who will provide access to this app requester? Am I creating this case, or are you creating this case, or these cases are creating in the backend? Tell me.
Creating in the background.
Creating the backend, right? It's creating the backend because of one requester. We call it as app requester. This is the requester. So who is providing access to this requester? There should be some access should be provided, right? So without you providing access, how come this requester can access that rules? What are the rules that I want to access? Or application context, to be precise. Who will be doing it? So that there comes a picture of service package. Is it clear? Someone ask you why we need a service package in file listener. This is something which you need to tell. The service package, you'll be providing the access group. The access group provides the context for the app requester who will be taking care of processing the entire transition. If there is no service package, then the requester will not have access to the application context. Let's consider I need service file, I need passed interval. I need to be in the context of that application, right? So that's the reason why we need a service package. And so service package serve two purposes here. First one is for getting authentication. You need to authenticate to the application. Second thing, to get the application context. Clear? The service package is also done. Now these are two important things. What is a parse delimited rule? If you see that we create one parse delimited rule, what is the language of Pega? If I want to
Yeah.
tell something, clipboard, right? If I want to tell something to Pega, Pega can understand in terms of clipboard, right? Pega's language is clipboard. If I want to tell you something, I am communicating with you in English, right? Similarly, if I want to communicate with Pega, definitely the format of the data should be in clipboard. But here what happens, I'm having data, entire data is in CSV, comma separated values. or you can say any value, but this is in the form of text. Our main purpose is that we have a parse delimited rule which helps to parse the values onto the clipboard. So Teja, this TEJ will be copied to first name. This A will be copied to last name. ABC will be copied to email. 123 will be copied to phone. And this 001010, if you remember, we have set it to a temporary text, which we not require. Why we are passing this 00 only for the header and 1010 for the next parts? If you see in the service file, so in service file, we will be having one option 00, I will skip it, right? And 10, I will use a parse delimited rule. I'll use a parse delimited rule. Along with that, I will execute an activity. This is something we have done. So what happens? The file. So what my file listener read the file, right? Now my service file will process this file. File listener read this file. In the file listener, I have provided one service file. So the service file, what it will do? It will process this file. How it processes it? It will read that file. Okay, 200, skip karo. 10 we have it. Okay, 10 we have it. I need to use a parse delimited rule. Then I need to execute an activity. So how to use parse delimited rule? This parse delimited rule will map the clipboard properties. So first name, I'm saying it as, I'm giving it this value. Last name, I will be, this is the same thing which is mapping to clipboard. I'm mapping those details on the clipboard. So my email is also having some value and my phone is also having some value, right? So I've used one parse delimited rule which will helps to map the content of the CSV onto the clipboard. Now I have entire information on the clipboard. Now this activity will create the cases and we have an OOTB activity SVS, SVC work object. See how simple is it is. Understand the terminology. Understand. So first, before you start anything, understand why you are using those rules. You don't by heart it. Okay, file listener, yes, I need to create this rule, I need to create this rule, I need to create this rule. No. First start building it from scratch. File listener, I want to create, which means that first I need to read that file, right? So I need to create a file listener rule. After creating the file listener rule, it's very important for me to provide an access to the app requester. So I create a service package and I will pass it. Next, after creating a service package, I have this file. I need to process it to create a cases. So I need to read the content inside this and I need to have a differentiator for the header and for the values. And if I want to process it, I need a service file. Yes, create a service file. Inside the service file, you have an option 00 skip karenge, 00 skip 10. We have to, if I want to create a case, I need to have this information in the clipboard. There comes a picture of parse delimited rule. The parse delimited rule will place those information on the clipboard. Once I have the information on the clipboard, I can execute an activity. You can do whatever thing that you want to do, right? Clear? Any questions?
What's that OTB activity you mentioned there? SVC work object.
SVC work object. What is the purpose of this activity? It will, whatever the values that are there on the clipboard, it will create the case ID. This case ID will be created automatically. You don't need to do anything. Okay, clear?
Yes.
These are the file listener scenario questions. Let's go with one by one. The first question says, how do you configure a file listener to pick up files from a shared folder and create cases automatically? This is something which we have discussed. Am I right? How do you configure a file listener to pick up files from a shared folder and create cases automatically? This is the simple question, the normal question, which you need to answer the way I explained to you. Okay. Any questions on this first question? Do you have any doubts on this first question? Please feel free to ask if you're having any questions here. This is very important. How many of you gone through the video of file listener? I've asked you to go through it, right?
Yes, Teja.
Yeah,
In that video, the configuration of the service file and past delimited was not there. Only the file listener was there.
only the file listener was there. Okay.
Yeah,
I will share another video for pass delimiter rule and service file. Think we have one more. Just give me a minute. Let me check. Just a minute.
yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. Just do one thing. Just a minute. Okay. So have added 53 video, that is past delimiter and service file. 54 you have gone to the file listener. 55 will be the deployments. Okay. You can just go through that part. And if you have any questions on that, we can discuss it in tomorrow's lecture. Okay. Thanks for letting me know, Anurag. Okay. The second question, what happens if the incoming file is very large? For example, 1 GB of CSV. How does Pega process it efficiently? Right? And there is no extra configuration that you need to do. So what is this past delimited rule will do? So what are the service file that we have it? Will it be reading the entire file at once, or will it be reading one by one by one? So we have this configuration, right? This configuration, I am telling Pega by record type. I am telling Pega to read by record type, which means that I will be reading a single instance at a time. Even if it is having lot of data, I am selecting by record type, which means that it will process one by one, which will not have any impact. But if you are reading the entire file at a single go, it will definitely have an impact. Okay. There is no, you don't need to do extra configuration, but you need to tell them that what are the file listener that we configure, right? The parse delimited rule, we have an option that is by record type. Okay. So it will process the records one by one. Even if it is 1 GB or 2 GB, that doesn't matter. We need to process the files one by one, which will not have any impact on the application. Okay. Clear? Okay. I'll do one thing. So this file listeners part, let me park it for tomorrow, because I've seen that you have didn't gone to the second video. I didn't add it. So I request you to go to that video. We can discuss this in tomorrow's lecture. Let me provide you the complete information on deployments. What is a deployment? Why deployment is needed? What happens if there is a failure in the deployment? And even after deployment, if you're unable to find that rules, what could be the reason? Right? We have scenario questions on deployment too. I will discuss on deployments. Okay. Is it fine? Let me do one thing. Okay, we have questions, good questions on deployments. So before we understand, before we jump to deployments part, let me explain you the complete overview of what is a deployment, why we need a deployment, and what happens if you're not going to follow the deployment procedure. Right? Okay. Are we good to start the deployments? Sorry, it's my bad because forgot to add one more video. Don't worry, you can just go to that video today. I don't want to discuss the file listeners scenario questions today because that video should be completed. Right? Are we clear? Okay. Where exactly, in which environment you will be developing it? I'm talking about deployment, and with respect to, first let's understand with respect to business, right? I'm worried about my business. Even you are a Pega developer, it's very, very important that you understand the business functionality of any application that is there in the that is already there in the production. Why there are different environments? If you can you give me some examples of any applications that are there in your mobile? Any five examples that are there in your mobile? Any application that is in your mobile?
Zomato,
Okay, Zomato, Swiggy,
Blinkit,
Blinkit, others respond. Let's have an interaction. So interaction should be there. I'll ask someone who didn't speak yet. Anurag. So Kiran, tell me. Kiran, Sai Kiran, Prasad speak. On Prasad and Sai Kiran to speak because I see Sudhakar will speak, Anurag will speak. Venkatesh, please speak. Tell me
Yeah,
what are the
Paytm.
applications.
Correct.
Great. Okay. What else? One more again.
Paytm.
Paytm. Okay. Good. So if you see, let's understand the business functionality first before we understand why we need a deployment. Whatever the application that is already there in your mobile or that is already there in the Play Store. I'm talking about this part or App Store. Okay. All these applications are the applications which are used by the end users. Am I right? Are we the end users or not? Tell me.
yes,
End users, right? So any application that is being used by the end users, there comes the picture of production environment, right? Production environment. Let me give you why production environment is very crucial in any technology that is developed. So let's consider this Zomato, we have it, Swiggy, we have it, Blinkit, Create, Paytm. They may be using their own language. It can be a JavaScript they can use, it can be a Java they can use, it can be Angular, it can be React, it can be any coding language, right? Any application that can build on any other coding language. That doesn't matter to us. But if that is being used by end users, there is one important thing is that you will be in Play Store, you will be having beta versions, right? So sometimes what happens before the application is not fully completed, sometimes they release beta versions for end users also. Okay, that is an exception that you can ignore for now. But any application that is already there and there are multiple users using this application. Okay, production environment. Now I'm clear that in all the applications which I use are related to the production environment, which means that if let's take one this Zomato only, there will be developers, right? So there are people who will be developing the environment. So for these developers to develop each and every new enhancement, let's consider there is a festival that is coming. The festival they want to provide an offer saying that flat 100 rupees off. I'm talking about flat 100 rupees off. Will they be directly making the changes in this environment? Do you think that they will be making directly changes here? Even it is a small change. It can be a small change, it can be a big change, or it can be a big enhancement, or even it can be a bug fix. Anything that it can be. Let's understand each and everything on a high level. First thing, this is an enhancement. I'm talking about first thing I'm talking about is a enhancement. I'm talking about an enhancement here. Flat 100% off that should be provided on the screen. Now I've given this work to work by someone. Now this developer will be working on the development environment. Yes, so we have a development environment. This person will come and will work. He will make some changes with respect to that. He will test the code. Once that is done, he will be merging it. The merge concept comes anywhere. The terminology of merge may change, but the merge concept will remain same. So he developed this code in his version, in his private edit version. He merged that code into the development environment. Right now, development environment is done. Now I have merged it. Do I directly move the code into production? No. Again, I need to move it to the testing environment. Testing environment. There comes the picture of QA. Why we need to move it to testing environment? If I doesn't move it to testing environment, and if I directly move it to production, let's consider I move this code to the production environment. What happens, What if at the day of providing this flat 100% off, for some users it is not reflecting, for some users it is reflecting, will it give a bad impression for Zomato or not? We both are friends. It shows 100% off for you, but not for me. Then what I feel? I feel Zomato is not having a good thing. So I will scold Zomato for some other purpose. And I will be getting a bad impression on Zomato. Right? The reason being, if that is not tested properly, and if you are moving that code to the production environment, the end users may face a problem. It will affect the end users here. Affect end users. Clear? So so that's the reason why it's very, very important that whatever the logic that I have developed in development environment, even if you are pro, even you are having experience greater than 20 years, that doesn't matters. See, when it matters, I'll tell you. There is only one situation which is very, very important, where you'll be directly moving the code from development environment to production environment if the business is very critical, if the business wants the process to be done. Business criticality. Okay, if it is affecting multiple users, let's consider there is one issue that is affecting multiple users, affecting affecting n number of users. Only at that time you may be going with emergency deployment. Emergency, understand these terms. Emergency deployment. What is emergency deployment? There is one issue in production. There is one issue in production which wants to be resolved at the time. So I want to resolve this issue as soon as possible. I don't need to wait for 1 week. I don't need to wait for 1 day. I need to have this complete code to be fixed because it is affecting lakhs of users. Sometimes we will find that in the latest news, if you see, ChatGPT didn't work for 3 hours. ChatGPT was down for 5 hours. Right? Sometimes what happens if you use any application, that application will not work. Mainly, if you talk about the government website that you have it, EPFO. How many of you tried logging to the PF portal? I personally try to log in once in a week. Will you be having a good experience with the PF portal or bad experience? Tell me.
Mostly it's down only.
Mostly it's down only, right? The reason being, they're not worried that much. They're not worried that much. But let's consider I have one payment app called Phone Pay or Google Pay. Will it be done? If it is done every once in a week, will you be using that app or switching to other app? Tell me. I'm using phone pay, and if that is down for every 1 hour once in a week, and you need to make urgent payment, you have opened your app and you feel that it is not responding, how you will be feeling, tell me.
We'll be switching to new app.
Right, we'll be switching to new app because I'm having a bad experience with that application. The reason being, at the time when I needed it, that app didn't respond it to me. Even though if you come to the EPF portal, we don't have any option. Do we have any other option? Because that's a government website which will be hosted by a single person. Even if you have bad experience also, that doesn't matters here, right? So during the if you have a business where there is a competition is readily available, then business with respect to downtime matters. Even if your application is down for 1 hour in a month, then that will definitely lose lot of users. And that happened for many other applications as well. You may be having multiple applications in your mobile which can perform the same activity. We have Google Pay, we have Phone Pay, we have Credit, we have Paytm. All these apps are related to money, you transactions that you want to make, right? Any transaction that you want to make, you can make it. If all out of these four, if any one of them is not responding at least 1 hour once in a month, if that is down for 1 hour, then you will be seeing many people switching from that application to other applications. So it's very important for you to satisfy end users. So there comes the picture of emergency deployment. If there is a business criticality, or if it is affecting larger number of audience, then we need to go with emergency deployment. Emergency deployment is nothing but a fix that should be provided in very less time so that end users will not have any impact. Clear? So
Yes,
now,
sir.
now let's come back to the testing environment. I'm in testing environment QA. Why we need, why as discussed, why we need a testing environment? Can someone tell me?
So to test the functionality that was developed in the development environment, uh, that is working as expected. And
Correct. You're right. So development team have developed some changes and that moved to the testing environment. Now we are in testing environment called QA. Here what happens? Will the developers will test in testing environment? No, we have a separate testing team. They will be executing some scripts. They'll be doing some unit testing here, right? There are multiple things happen in testing environment. They will be doing regression testing. You can leave all this stuff because you will be not asked any question in this testing part. You can ignore this part, but yes, testing team will take care of running scripts, or testing team will take care of creating regression testing or unit testing. So first thing what they will be doing it, they will be connecting with you and asking you what are the things that you have modified. They will ask you, okay, this is the first screen, this is the second screen. They will capture all these details and they will be testing with respect to multiple scenarios. Though you have developed this code with respect to 3 or 4 scenarios in your mind, but this testing team can come up with multiple scenarios. They'll be doing end-to-end testing. Once that is approved, once the testing team says that it is working fine, they'll be creating a document and updating on the same Jira story. Now the testing environment is also done. Will it be directly going to prod? No, we have one environment called pre-prod, or we call it as a UAT environment. Why we need an UAT environment? Again, in pre-prod, we will enable some other users to test this application. This is also very important, and I'll tell you, there will be line of business. There will be line of business where we need to onboard multiple people to use our application, right? At that time, we'll be not onboarding into the production directly. We'll be onboarding into the pre-production environment. Pre-production environment and production environment, there is huge difference. Both are not same. Pre-production environment is the one phase before production environment, and we definitely need this because any line of business with respect to your users who wants to onboard to test this application will be onboarding them. They will be working on the they'll be you just using this application. They will be just navigating from here there. They will be checking each and every entity. But once the code is moved to development environment testing and testing to pre-prod environment, your lead asks to verify whether the changes are working fine or not. Even if we don't ask you, it's your responsibility to log in each and every environment and test the changes whether the functionality is working as expected in all environments or not. Pre-production, yes, this is success here also. Then we'll be moving the code to the production environment. This is very, very important. Production environment is very, very important. And I will talk about the production environment now. Okay. Are we good? So why we need a deployment? So deployment, before we understand why we need deployment, these are the things that are present in each and every life cycle. Any application that you find it in the mobile or any place store in the app store or any application that you can find it here. If I open this part, I can find Google. And if I click on this part, I can see multiple accounts are there right here. G Drive, Gmail, YouTube, Gemini, all these things are the production applications that I'm using, which means that they'll be having their own developer studio. They'll be having their own testing environment. They'll be having their own pre-prod environment and they will be having a production environment which we are using. Okay, any application that you find, it can be Zoom application which I'm using. This is a production environment. Okay, Google Chrome is a production environment. This one, this what are the Microsoft Edge that we have it is a production environment. Okay, now we are clear with production environment, and now whatever the code that we develop in development environment, if I want to move it to higher environments, testing, pre-prod and production environment, I need to follow a procedure in Pega that we call it as a deployment. What is deployment? Deployment is a process which helps to move the code from dev to production. And this is very important. Please note it saying that any code that you develop in development environment, the same code should be present in dev, the same code should be present in QA, the same code should be present in UAT, the same code should be present in production environment. Whatever the code, if there are 100 rules that you develop here, the same 100 rules should be moved here, the same 100 rules should be moved here, and same 100 rules should be moved here. And my latest version is 010199. Then this my latest version should be also 010199. This should be also 010199, and this should be also 010199. If my latest version is 010199, which means that all the versions which are below it, all the versions which are below it, what happens to these versions? Tell me. All the versions which are below it, what happens? All the versions which are below it are locked. And this version, after moving the code, this will be also locked. Now tell me why we need a lock. I'm pretty confident that what is a deployment? Deployment is a process of moving the code from development environment to production environment. And whatever the code that you develop in development environment, the code remains same in QA, UAT and production. And each and every environment that we see it here will be mapped to the latest toolset version. This is very good, and in application definition you can find on the right side what are the rule sets that you are aligned, that will be tagged. This is something which is very important, and each and every rule set that you find it here will be locked. Why we need to acquire a lock? The other question which is very important, which you may find silly, but yes, this is very, very important. Why we need to acquire a lock? Tell me, what could be the reasons which you feel?
So that no one will be able to make any changes in any particular rule or
No changes should be done. Okay. No changes. No, we are not allowing anyone to make the changes. Yes. What could be the other reason?
So whatever the new code is coming, it shouldn't affect the existing code, which is working
Okay.
fine.
New code that should be coming should not disturb the existing code. Existing code must not be disturbed. Right? Next. And if you see, we will be working the development in the form of sprints, right? I'll be doing in the form of sprints. My new code should go to the new or highest toolset version. What if I go or what if I move the new code onto the lowest toolset version? Let's consider I have a requirement where I have a data transform. I developed the data transform in 0101 80 rule set. Now my code got after this is the sprint 7, I can say sprint 8 is done, 9 is done, 10 is done, where my rules are now having the highest rule set version of 84. Let's consider this one. If the rule is this one is not locked, this rule set is not locked. Along with this one, I have other rule sets called 010170, which is not locked, 010172, which is not locked. Now I am using one whatever the data transform that I am having it here, the same data transform. Let's consider send employee details. Send employee details. This send employee details, I am modifying this send employee details now. I am modifying this send employee details now. After modification, I forgot to move that code in the highest toolset version, but in turn, I moved it into 72 version because this is not logged, right? My latest code is present here. This is my latest code. Now we have it here. This is my earlier code. During the runtime, which rule will be taken priority? Tell me.
Highest version.
Highest toolset version, right? This will be picked during the runtime. But my latest code is present where?
70.
72. Is it a good practice now?
No.
Right? So it's very, very important that my latest code should move to the latest toolset version. My latest code should move to latest version. If I want to move it to the latest version, which means that all my previous versions should be locked. This is one of the important use case that you can keep in your mind if someone asks you how locking plays the crucial role. Clear? Okay, good. Now we have understood that locking plays the important role. We should not make any changes. So let's consider I have a tester. If this rule is not locked, their testing team, they don't know much about coding. Due to some reasons, he tried to open some rule. Unfortunately, the lock is not enabled on that rule and that got deleted. Who is responsible here?
Yes, it would be.
Right? The entire team is responsible here because you have provided a privilege. There should not be privilege or there should not be unlocking that should be present in higher environments. If that rule is not logged in higher environments and the testing team or business architect or business analyst is not aware of Pega technology, by due to some reasons, unfortunately, the tool got deleted. Who is responsible here? The entire developers are responsible here and mainly the lead and LSA is responsible. So whenever a deployment happens, they will be moving the deployment with the help of lock rule set only. They'll be creating a new version of the product and the rule will be locked automatically. It's very, very important that each and every rule is locked because no one should delete it. No one should delete it. Clear? Any questions till this point?
Okay, sir, like I have a doubt.
Okay, go ahead.
So this comes under this data transform. This like we have in the data transform, we have that checkbox, right? Called Superclass data transform.
Yes, yes.
So how it's going to look like? Suppose I have called the data transform,
Got it. Got it. I will explain you. And the superclass data transform we have covered in our previous lectures. No problem. Let me explain you one
Yeah,
more time.
yeah, I shouldn't be asking the question, but like since we saw the versions right?
Yes. With respect to versions. So what happens, superclass data transform is very, it's more related to inheritance concept. Okay. So my superclass data transform, if I'm having class structure ABC, PQR, work, revive. This is my class structure. And tell me the pattern inheritance of this part, ABC.
Two, one, four.
PQR work.
And for this one,
Addition to your
ABC.
baseline.
And we have work slash cover slash, and you can understand, okay, let it be work slash cover class, and I'm just giving it as base class. Okay. Now my data transform, which is created in 010174, and my data transform is present in 010180, right? If I execute it during the runtime, highest toolset version will be picked. If this is unavailable, then only you will be jumping to this part. Okay. If this is available, then this will take the precedence. And let's consider the same, send employee information. Send employee details is present here, that is there in 010180. Okay. In order to fulfill the superclass data transform functionality, it's very important. Keep this in mind. Whatever the data transform that you have it here, the same data transform name should be used in the preceding classes. If I am using with send employee without details, will it fall under superclass data transform?
No,
No, it should be send employee details only. Whenever I click on this options of superclass data transform, it will open me this one. And there is superclass data transform same with same send employee details. Send employee details. If I click on this part, first it will check whether I have the same data transform name on this class. No, that is not there. Then it will check if it have in the below class. Yeah, we have it. It will open this part. Now it will check whether we have the class here and here. If there are no classes, it will start executing from here. This is the first execution that happens. This is the second execution that happens. And this is the third execution that happens. Let's consider we have one value called py note. I'm having py note property here as a, b, c. I'm using the py note here also as c, d, e. At the end, at the end of execution, this is very important. Listen carefully. At the end of the execution, what is my py note value?
so if the PY value was not present in the previous classes, like in the arrival class, it's going to the CD.
So you're telling at the end my value is cd.
Yeah.
Okay. Does everyone agree with this point? What is the first execution of data transform happened?
The third one, like
cd. This is the first execution happened. The second execution happened. This is the third execution happened. Will it be overridden with ABC or not? See.
yes, teacher, so every time the DD is executed, it's going to check for the superclass data transform.
Hmm.
Then only,
If you enable the checkbox call superclass data transform, first it will check in this inheritance whether you have any superclass data transform, which means that same data transform name. We have it here. We have it here. It will try to find till the base class. We don't have it here. We don't have it here. So we have it here. First, it will execute this data transform. Now my pvnode value will be CDE. Next, it will execute this second data transform and it will execute at the end this data transform And if you see, though my PV node value is CDE here, but I am changing that PV node to ABC. Got it?
Final, yeah, so the final value would be the ABC.
ABC. But you may feel doubt. Every time my final values will be already present in the same data transform, right? So why we need to use superclass data transform here? I'll tell you. So this is ABC PQR work, right? I can have one more application which is ABC PQR work, and that is for loan. I'm using send employee information, right? For this also, this is superclass. I can have all the properties which are common for loan and revive in this send employee details. That is why superclass data transform is important. If there are any common things which you want to have, that information should be available. So if you see here for loan, this is my inheritance path only. For revive also, this is my inheritance path. If there are any attributes that you want to set for multiple layers, then we will be using superclass data transform. And the order of execution follows like this. It will start checking it from here and it will go till this point. It will identify what are the data transforms that we have it. Yes, this is my first data transform. This is my second data transform. This is my third data transform. And I will start executing it from identifying from the base layer. This is how superclass data transform works. Clear? Any questions?
So there is like so the Superclass data transform we used to set the common values like the uh, like I got a question from like around 3 months back. In one of the interview they asked that same question.
Yeah, what is the question? Tell me.
So will the superclass data transform be executing every time it was executed? Suppose I call the superclass data transform in a section. When that property changes, I call the third data transform.
Mm-hmm.
How the execution is going to be happen. Okay. So at that time, my answer was like, first it will execute the superclass data transform, then it will execute the current data transform.
Parameter and guess. Second, what is the second? First, you will execute the superclass data transform and again.
Then it will execute the whatever the current data transform.
Yeah. So you don't explain it like that. Start explaining it clearly, saying that. So let's consider I have a section. I'm changing a property to run a data transform. So first, what Pega will identify, Pega will open the data transform. It will first check whether this checkbox is enabled or not. Call superclass data transform is enabled or not. If that is not enabled, then only it will execute this part. If that is enabled, which means that I am telling Pega, go and check for the superclass data transform. Where you will be checking? You'll be checking with respect to the inheritance that you have it. I'll go down, I'll go down, I'll go down, I'll go down, and I will go down. If I identify, so first I identified it here. Again, in this one, you need to again enable this checkbox. See, inside this one, you need to enable this checkbox again. Here, if you're not enabling this checkbox, then it will stop here only. It will not go and check it down. It is enabled here, and again I will go and verify it for that part. At the first site, this is my first site. There are no same superclass data transforms here. I'll start executing it from here. This is how you need to explain them. Okay,
Okay. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
clear?
Yeah. So on every layer, the checkbox should be enabled. Only then it will go down. Okay.
Definitely, right.
Okay.
See, before I execute any data transform, Pegas engine will check whether the checkbox is enabled or not. Here it is enabled, then which means that I'm going to check on the down layer. If I find the data transform, and if here if the checkbox is not enabled, I will execute this data transform and I will come back to execute this data transform. Every layer this should be enabled and you can give it a try. Okay. Clear?
Yeah.
Now let's come back to the deployment where we have left. So we have understood why we require a logging and we have understood why we need deployments, right? Now let's go back to scenario questions on deployments and we'll see what are the things that are very important here. Able to see the deployments document?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question says you deployed a new rule set version to QA, but the changes are not reflecting. What could be the possible reasons? So he says that we have a development environment. It moved to QA. My changes. Let's consider I have developed all the changes that are present in 010170 70. And the same rules are moved to 010170. In development environment, this is working fine, but in QA, this is not working. And there comes the question. The code is present in QA. Whatever the code that is there in development environment, I have successfully moved to QA, but during the runtime, my code is not working effectively. What could be the reason? Think of multiple approaches. So think of this one. You have an application. You can go into application definition. If your application is pointing to till 010169, but in development environment, your application is pointing to 010170. In this case, during the runtime, will your application will pick this rule set or not?
No, I think that is statements we need to again mention the same rules.
Right. This is very important. And usually we'll be not facing this issue. So what happens, my application definition every time I will give it as 0101 here, 0101 here only. Till 010199, I will not have this problem. Sometimes what happens, I need to upgrade the minor version. So I have need to upgrade it to the minor version. Now I have developed the code in 010201. I moved it a code to the QA. But in application definition of QA, my still it is pointing to 0101 only. But my latest code is there in where? 010201. So what you need to do? You need to modify this application definition to 0102. Clear? Got it? Yes, the code is present in QA. Deployment successfully happened, but during the runtime, my code is not executed. The reason is my application is not pointing to the latest rule set version. It's very important that my application should map to the latest version so that all the rules that I have developed in the lower versions should be picked. Along with that, the rule that is developed in the highest version should be picked. Clear? And what is the explanation that they have given? This can happen if the rule set version is not included in the application stack. Rules are not checked in. Rules are not checked in. This could be the other reason. But without checking in, definitely will be not moving the code. So you can eliminate this answer. In the operators access group is still pointing to the older application version. Older application version is nothing but that application version is having the oldest rule set stack or cache is not clear. We have this option of clearing cache from admin studio where we'll be clearing the entire application cache that you can perform. In such cases, you verify application definition, rule set versions, and clear caches. Worst case, you will be doing the restart. Is it clear? Any questions?
Teja, like restarting is the not the recommended version.
That is not recommended at all.
Mm.
You have an option to execute static assembler. You can execute a static assembler. You can perform clearing cache. You can check application definitions and versions. On the worst case, if nothing is going right, then go with the restart. Okay, clear?
Yeah.
This second question saying that during deployment, you notice schema errors in the database. How do you handle schema changes in Pega develop deployments? What is schema changes?
Database change, but data type is changed.
Schema changes or schema things, nothing but they are more related to the Pega database or Pega storage. Pega database or Pega storage. Let's consider you have a requirement where I optimized a property or I increase the size of a column. The same thing should be reflected in the higher environment. In order to do that, whenever we optimize any properties and those optimized properties should be present in higher environment, there is some schema changes happened in the backend, right? So there comes the picture of executing DDL scripts. We have an option to execute DDL scripts. Again, this will be taken care by DB team if you have it, or if you have any admin team in your in your application, there will be admin team or will be having database team who will be taking care of this executions of DDL scripts. So what you need to do first, you move the code, whatever the code that you have it, you'll be moving it that part. And whenever you execute or whenever you populate something, whenever I do whenever I optimize a property, I've done optimization of property, or I have increased the length of a property, length of a column of a property. That can happen, and we can get detailed script of these properties. You can execute this DDL script, or you can ask the team to execute, admin team to execute the detailed scripts. That they will be doing it, which will not have effect on the schema changes. If the property is optimized in development environment, the same property should be in optimized stage in higher environments also. As mentioned, each and every environment should have the same logic. Each and every environment should have the same logic. And I have already shared one document earlier. What is the document? I have optimized a property, but for all the latest cases that I create, that is no problem. But for all the inflamed cases that we have it, how you are going to solve this problem? I have inflamed cases. For all inflamed cases, my property column is not present for the inflamed cases, but for all new cases, my property column is present in the database. How we are going to solve that problem? And I have explained you very clearly in this document about DDL scripts. Along with that, I have explained about writing an activity. You can just go to the document. Okay. You can find it in Pega Batch 3 group itself. Clear? Any questions? Okay.
We
L-
need to uh, like if a property is optimized in dev environment, then we can move the same to the QA also, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can move it. You can move it. See, we
So
have column population jobs that will be created. You can you can just download the scripts, right? You can navigate to schema changes in configure. We have configure, right? You can configure. We can configure from we have this configure to system to a database. You can open that column population jobs. You can find that option. You can download that script. You can execute it. Usually in many of the teams, what happens, they will be having a separate admin team or DBA team, database team. They'll be taking care of it, but you need to mention them that this is something which you are doing it. Okay.
yeah.
And refer the document that I have highlighted. You can find the steps in the document. You can just go through it. And someone please read this question.
Your application has multiple branches. How do you ensure a clean deployment package from dev to QA?
Hmm. So your application has multiple branches. When you have multiple branches,
When there are multiple developers.
multiple developers, right? So you have multiple developers, we have multiple branches, and multiple developers are working in a single sprint. For each and every sprint, we can have a dedicated rule set or not. Tell me.
Yeah.
So I'm having a dedicated rule set. That's good, right? So whatever the dedicated rule set that I'm having it, I can move all the code into the dedicated rule set. Now, for that dedicated rule set, I can take the package with the help of product file, and then I will be moving it to the higher environments. Clear?
So in the package, we will be mentioning that rule set version and
Yes,
the rule. Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Got it.
You'll be specifying the rule set with the version, and you'll be exporting, you will be creating that package, you will be exporting that rule set, then you can import it in the higher environments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That video, yesterday video, and
Yes,
that it's
yes,
clearly mentioned. Rule instance has to include in the version and the, yeah.
yes, you're right. You can just check in that video. Okay, that is a simple question. And we have the other question which says that what steps do you take if a deployment to higher environments fails midway? Can you roll back? Usually, what happens sometimes when you're deploying something in any higher versions, it can be test, it can be QA, it can be production. 99, 95 to 99% of times you will not face any failure. But if there are any failures that happens, don't get worried. See, I tried deploying something and that got halfway through and it got stopped abruptly. Then what you need to do? Don't get panic. If it is a production environment, don't ever get panic. First problem is to solve the issue. Now check, go to application definition and see whether those rules are moved or not. If those rules are not moved, then you are on a good path. Let's consider only half of the rules got moved and other half of the rules didn't got moved. Don't worry, right? So don't get worry here. Start redeploying the package again. You can redeploy the package again. What happens if Pega identifies the existing rules? You will be getting a pop-up saying that skip. If there are any rules, it will directly skip because those rules are already present. And what are the existing rules which are not present? That rules will be moved. And if you are working with respect to database, again you need to verify whether that table got moved or not. How to verify that? You can open that class. You can check the definition and see whether the table mapping is done in database. You have these records. So you have records, sysadmin and database. You can navigate to that column and see whether the database is got moved or not. If that didn't got moved, then you need to redeploy it. If that got moved and if that is not working as expected, then what you need to do? Take permission from your lead and ask that this is something which happened, then try to delete that existing rule and try to redeploy the new rule. Got it? This is very important. Please keep this in your mind, especially people who are working as a senior developers. This is your job. The reason being, you are the responsible person for the junior developers. You need to take care of their questions if they're coming to you instead of you reaching out to your lead. Okay. Okay. Next question. How do you manage product rules for deployment when only a subset of rules needs to be moved? This is also something which we have discussed yesterday in the client. You have a video that you can just go through it, which says that, see, whatever the subset of rules is nothing but I'm having multiple rule set versions, and it all depends upon the things that you're going to mention in the product rule. I can directly move only part of the code, or I can move only a particular version of the code, or you can move only few rules by providing the PZ and S key. You got my point? We have individual instances to include option, which you can use for this part in order to get it done. Okay.
So only for the data instance only we specify the
Individual
page.
instances to include, yes. For the data instances, you specify the PZ and S key. But let's consider, someone please go on mute. So let's consider there is a requirement where I have new rule set I have created in development environment. But for now, I just don't want to move 10 rules, right? I don't want to move 10 rules, but I want to move only 3 to 4 rules. At that time, what you need to do, you need to include not the rule set version, but on the individual instances to include, you can include the rule instance of that PZNSK. Let's consider I have sent employee details rule data transform that needs to be moved. I can include that by providing the PZNSK. I want to move 3 to 4 rules, not the entire rule set version. Then again, you can include those instances one by one. I can include the send employee details, receive employee details, the properties that you have created by specifying the PZNS key in individual instances to include. Okay,
Yeah,
clear? Is it clear?
yeah, okay.
Okay. And then the next question, which is very important. If two developers deployed changes in the same rule set but different versions, how do you merge and avoid conflicts? It says that you are a developer, I am a developer. We deployed changes in the same rule set but different versions. Now what happens? I have developed the code changes. May I have a developer A? I have a developer A and I have a developer B. This developer A has moved the code in version 010170. Developer B moved the code in 67. Let's consider. Okay. If I go back to the question, which says that two developers deployed changes in the same rule set but different version. Now, I'm different version of the same rule set. How do you merge and avoid conflicts? When merge conflict happens, when you are using the same rule, if the developer A is using the same rule, rule underscore one, and developer B is also using the same rule called rule underscore one. What happens? Rule underscore one, my changes should be present and his changes should be present. But if I am merging it like this in 70 and 67, which rule will be taken priority out of these two rules?
71 only since it is
This will
less.
take the priority. First priority will happen here. But this fellow also developed the majority of the code which needs to be there in the production. So now what happens? So we need to, these people, they both need to come to a conclusion saying that either A or B should deploy the code with these changes. So the A person will deploy the code with these changes in 70. Now this second person need to reuse that code, whatever the code that he have used, the activity rule underscore one, he need to modify this rule underscore one with the changes that he wants to do. After modifying the changes, this person should move it to version called 71. You got it? Now what happens? This fellow code is present and I have used this rule which is there in the 70. So developer B modified this rule 1 in 70. He made the changes and he moved the code with these changes onto the 71 version. Now will it have any problem? Will it have any problem?
No, no.
No problem, right? See, multiple people can work on the same rule. There is no chance, right? There are chances where your teammate can work on the same rule and the same sprint itself. I'm working on the same sprint. I want to work on the same rule, and you also want to work on the same rule. This is the first approach which you can think of. And the other approach is that if you guys are working on the same sprint, then you will develop the rules, rule underscore one, you have made the changes. Then what you can ask him, you have made the your changes also rule underscore one. This fellow made A, made the changes, B made the changes. So once A made the changes, you need to ask him to add the same changes in his rule set, in his rule. In his rule, you can ask him to make the changes in his rule, and you can ask him to move it to 70 version. This is also possible. But what happens here, I worked on the code, but these code changes are done by A. I'm what are the changes that I made it that will be moved by this A, which you can do it, but instead of doing that way, I can suggest you to do in the previous approach. But if this both the changes should be present in the same sprint, then this is the only option. This fellow make the changes in rule 1 of A. This fellow make the changes in rule 1 of B, rule 1 with respect to B. Then my both code should be present on the same rule set because this is the same sprint which we are working on. If you are not allowed to create it in the new rule set version, then either one of should compromise. You need to connect with him, ask him to make the same changes in his rule, then deploy that code. Clear? Any questions till this point? Any questions?
No question.
Okay, let's go back to this place. What precautions do you take before deploying to production to ensure zero downtime? Zero downtime because see, during the downtime only, you'll be making the deployments in production. Usually we'll be having downtime for each and every region that you work. The downtime can be for 2 to 3 hours, which means that there will be less number of application end users who are using that part. At that time, we'll be going with the deployments. But it's very important that whatever the code that we are deploying, that should not have any downtime, which means that that should not stop the application from being not used. So what precautions do you take before deploying to production to ensure zero downtime? Which we have discussed that whatever the code that I use that should be developed in development environment should be tested in development environment by you. You should check the compliance score. You should check the branch quality. You should check each and everything. You need to get it code review done. Later you will move the code to the QA environment. The testers will test with the help of regression testing. They will be doing smoke testing. They will be doing unit testing. Multiple testings will happen in QA environment. Once they approve it, you need to verify it in QA and in pre-prod. Then only you need to deploy into the production so that there will be no downtime. Okay. Each and every deploy development that you do is not like you're developing it and directly moving to the production. No, that will never happen until and unless if the business require a critical code to be pushed without any testing. That is an exceptional case. But apart from exceptional case, there will be no emergency deployment for all the developments that you do with respect to sprints. Okay. So I personally suggest you to go through this document. We are time is completed and these questions are very simple. I will be sharing these questions in the drive location that we have it. Go through these questions and I've added one more video that is with respect to file listeners, parse delimiter rule and service file rule. Just go through these rules and in tomorrow's lecture, we'll be discussing the file listener scenario questions. Along with that, we'll be starting with the email listener. Okay. Any questions before we wrap the session? Any questions? You can have an interaction here. If your questions maybe that can be related to this topic or any other topic is fine. If you're having any questions, let me know. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll wrap the session. We'll see you tomorrow. But keep this in mind that you're going through the video that I have uploaded in the Pega Batch 3 folder. Go to the recording session. Go through these documents. Tomorrow we'll be understanding on scenario based questions on file listener. Along with that, we'll be starting a quick intro on email listeners. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. If you're having any feedbacks, any concerns, any questions that you want to discuss, you're open with Pega Batch 3 group. You can ask questions there. I'll catch you there. Okay, thanks for joining. Have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.
Hello.
Yeah, Anurag.
Yeah, hi, Kit. So, when we use connect SQL for the RDB methods, right?
Yes,
To connect to external database system.
that's correct. Yes.
So, how does Pega connect with those external database systems? Should we do anything, or it is taken care by database team?
No, usually this can be done in two different ways. If you're having a database team, you can establish a database connection, or what you can do, you can create the Pega database. So you have this record sysadmin and you have database, right? First, you'll be creating the database, you'll be creating the class mapping. So, what are the database mapping that we do? That should be done with the external system. Once we have that database mapping with external system, then you will be using RDB methods to process anything. In the class that we have discussed, if you see, we have configured Connect SQL, right? That Connect
Yes.
SQL that we have done for the internal database table.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how that internal database table happened? I'm using that table, right? Select star from that table name. I'm providing the table name. That table name is related to my internal class table.
Yes.
But what if the table is related to the external table? Only the table mapping will change, but the code that you're writing, right, that will not change.
Okay.
Okay. The database, you can just navigate to record sysadmin database. In the database, only the changes will happen. Nothing will change. What are the code that we have used will not change. What are the columns, what are the SQL functions which we have used there will not change. The only change is the connection mapping with respect to that table only will change. Okay.
Okay. But
Okay.
connection mapping configuration is not in project.
I will share the question. I will share you the document. Just ping me. I will
Okay.
provide you the high level steps how to connect with the external system. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Anurag. Chalo, we'll meet you some more tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.
Yeah. Like if you
Yeah,
have
Anurag.
2 minutes, one. Yeah.
Yeah, Anurag.
So,
Tell
I
me.
mean, it's regarding, I think everyone is talk, I can speak in Delhi. Like the ఈ టాస్క్ లైక్ జేఎంఎస్ లిజనర్ కి సంబంధించి లైక్ ఇది
Yeah, we have
సేమ్
JMS. Yeah, we have JMS listener. Yes.
ఎక్స్ఎంఎల్ ఫైల్ ప్రాసెసింగ్ కోసమే లైక్ నేను చేసే టాస్క్ అదే. సో నేను ఆ ఫైల్ ప్రాసెసింగ్ చేసే ముందు వ్యాలిడేషన్ చేసుకుంటాను లైక్
1 minute,
ఎక్స్ఎంఎల్
Anurag.
సిస్టమ్.
Okay. Let me
యా.
stop recording in 1 second.
యా.
Let me stop recording.